Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the webinar by Ecochain, CPR in Practice, Lessons from Real Manufacturers. It's great to see so many of you joining us today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. Before we begin, I'd love to introduce our speakers of today. I'd love to introduce first Dr. Pratik Gulkar. Dr. Pratik is a sustainability leader. He has over a decade of international experience shaping net zero strategies, LCA, circular economy across Europe and Asia, working among others also with Fortune 500 companies. He holds a PhD in circular economy and process development and brings deep technical expertise to solve complex challenges with our customers. So he's the senior LCA knowledge lead at the Ecochain, and he plays a key role here in driving innovation, enabling customers to embed sustainable practices and work with LCA. He's also, internationally recognized, including engagements also with the United Nations. And then we have Alyssa Nicole Thompson. She is a LCA consultant and ESG data lead here at Ecochain. She specializes in lifecycle assessment, sustainability data strategy, and has deep expertise in EN 1580482, PEF, and PAX BCF. She combines methodological rigor with coding-driven efficiency, building automated tools that turn complex data into credible, verifier-approved insights. Very important. My name is Nick. I'm a marketing manager here at Ecochain, and I will be your host, your moderator today. Moving on, so this is the agenda for for today. We have Dr. Pratik giving you a high-level overview of what the CPR entails, what's upcoming, what are the requirements that are relevant for you at this moment, and what are then moving into like the common bottlenecks that Alyssa will guide you through, and making this this tangible through real-world customer examples. So really giving you the tangible examples from your peers in this space that can serve as inspiration and also help you through this journey. And then some more and also on the Ecochain solution a little bit and how we help you stay ahead. If you have any questions, there's a Q&A section here in the top right, I believe. Feel free to put any questions there throughout the session. We want to make this quite interactive. We'll have plenty of time to address any comments, concerns, questions with you. There's also a chat section if you just want to give your comments or give any personal experiences, etc. And we'll also be happy to address those. This session is recorded, and we will be also sharing the recording with you afterwards. Yeah, you can look at it again at your own convenience as well. A little bit about Ecochain. We are an LCA software company. What that means is that we provide software for you to do your LCA. LCA means lifecycle assessment. It's the method to map your environmental impact from the raw material extraction phase to the end of life, allowing you to have your environmental impact of your product so that you can take action on that. You can design more sustainable products. You can use the data for outputs such as EPDs, PCFs, etc. So we have experience in different industries, including construction, food and beverages, consumer electronics, and others. Our core really is the construction industry. This is basically why we were founded, because this was also the first industry, at least in the Netherlands, where we really saw external pressure coming from national and international policymakers to be able to deliver the sustainability data. On. This is just a glimpse of the type of customers we work with in construction industry. Really, helping these customers provide the data that they need, give them insights in their product impact, in order for them to meet regulations, win tenders, and differentiate themselves within the market. And if you have any questions, as I said, feel free. So also the presentation today, we will not be naming specific customer names. However, if you are curious, we'll be happy to get in touch with you, after the webinar and give you more context and more details if needed. So just so you know. So why are we here? It's good, I think, also to zoom out a little bit and give it a bigger picture. The buildings and construction sector is the largest global emitter of greenhouse gases. 37% of global CO2 emissions comes from this industry. At the same time, it's essential for our well-being. It's really the backbone. There's housing crisis. There's there is a big need for construction, and the way to go is to try and balance that with the environment. And it's not to stop building, but to build better. And how do manufacturers contribute? That is why these construction product regulations was put in place. And that's the central theme of this webinar, as well as how can you then use that to create business value, right? So that's also a key focus. Then I'm happy to, before we start, just like to run a quick poll with you to see maybe where you are at the within your journey towards compliance. So this will give us a nice idea of you guys and where you're at. So please select the option of that most accurately describes your situation. And just give it a minute. Great. It's actually quite divided. Almost half is just starting to explore and gather information, and that's exactly, I think, what we're doing today. So happy to see that. Also, quite some of you that are already having a plan and have started to work on implementing measures, and even some that are really on top of it. So it's nice to see. We'll share the results also afterwards in the recap email, just for you to have an idea of what your peers are also at. All right, I think we can move on. And I'm happy to give the floor to Dr. Pratik Golkar, who will tell you something more about the landscape and the regulations itself. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Nick, for the very warm introduction, and welcome everybody who are curious about CPR and how it affects your business, what you should do. The aim of this webinar is not to give you in detail understanding of what is regulation, what are timeframes or something, but we want to focus on actually how can you implement it practically. However, to facilitate the discussion, what we are now trying to do is just to see a high overview of what exactly CPR is and how it is related. So if I classify it broadly, you can see there are like two layers. One is a decision layer, where government says, okay, I want to make projects more sustainable. And then comes the execution layer, in which you will often see that there are two major parties. One is who make the construction products, and one are the contractor companies who use those products to make the projects. Now, the construction product manufacturers often deal with the two units, which are upstream tools, which help them to calculate the environmental footprint of their products, and then also help them to get them published and verified using a program operator. And then comes a second entity, which is a contractor companies, which then use this published EPDs to evaluate the overall environmental footprints of their buildings or their construction. So this is how this layer is split between like decision layer and execution layer. Next. Yeah, then we are constantly discussing this with the companies. And then we realized, as this was the external driver that government is telling you to do, there are some internal drivers as well. One of very common drivers is the procurement managers of your suppliers asking you, okay, I just bought something from you. Now I need an environmental product footprint of it. And the oftentimes verified EPDs is what they are looking at. Next. Same if you're in a sustainability domain, you're a director of sustainability and you want to report something about your products, then also you would need to have your environmental footprint calculated. And then the last driver, what we have seen so far, is about marketing. When you want to make a claim or you want to say that, okay, we have progressing in our net zero goals, all of these needs are then passed on to a single entity in your company called sustainability engineers. And then they have to figure out that, yes, he says, yeah, we know what you all need is EPDs, and I will get them quickly and effectively. And at Ecochain, most often times we deal with sustainability engineers who says, okay, I want this EPDs, and how can you facilitate it? And then we say, okay, your prospects are looking at the solution which provides verified and published EPDs. And at Ecochain, we do facilitate that discussions. Next. So who is affected and what is required? So this is a very common question that we get asked by our customers. And then in who manufacturers, importers, distributors placing construction products on EU market, they are all affected. And what you have to provide is environmental footprint calculations of your product, which are a part of like BOPC documents. And you have to follow EN 15804 plus A2 standards. Now, when I say you have to follow EN 15804 plus A2 standards, this is a big umbrella of regulations under which there are various PCRs, which are very specific to your products. So you need to also adhere to those PCRs when you make those calculations. And what we are looking at in a time frame is by January 2026, we are looking for a carbon footprinting for the most of the products. And by January 2032, we are looking at like a full environmental product declaration, like complete EPD, and that's a mandatory step by January 2032 for a certain group of products. If you want to know more about this, because this is just in high-over, please do get in touch with us, and we are happy to help you navigate all of these challenges. Can you please go to the next slide, Nick? Now, when we are looking at the time frame, we wanted to simplify it because the aim of the webinar was not to go through the regulations and in detail timelines. So we simplified it. What is important for you is to know that from 2026 onwards, we need to declare the GWP, environmental impacts of GWP, and on 31st December 2026, the green public procurement, if you are in a domain where you provide your products in tenders or everything, the green procurement, public procurement will make it mandatory to have your footprints calculated. Again, in terms of time frame, if you want to know if your product falls in this time frame, when you have to be compliant, we have all of this information. Please get in touch with us and we'll help you to know all of the information about your product. Next. And now I'll hand over the stage to Alisa to explain how can we help manufacturers.
Hey everyone. Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, testing.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump into the most common bottlenecks our clients have faced. In this case, the first is verification at scale. The industry is simply not ready for this. Most established LCA tools did not anticipate mass EPD verifications in their design. And as the EU becomes more concerned with meeting their own climate goals, this is trickling down to the largest manufacturers first. And this indicates a larger scale implementation that, of course, will lead to data collection chaos and internal misalignment, rather, as well as multi-factory product and timeline complexity, right? And the final challenge is, how do we navigate uncertainty? This comes in the form of digital future readiness, as the EU is transitioning towards digitization in order to streamline everything. Yeah. In this case, we wanted to know what common bottlenecks you are experiencing right now as a company. And we put up a poll for that. Let us know by clicking the appropriate response to give us a better idea.
Yes, and if you have any specific questions about these challenges that might have driven you to this webinar, please do put them in the Q&A. We might not cover all of it in the presentation itself, but we'll have plenty of time to go over each and every one of your concerns or challenges at the end. But yeah, so it's nicely spread out as well. All right.
All right. To dive into our first most common bottleneck, which is verifications at scale, this is something that the biggest European construction product companies are going to experience, have experienced, even within the Nordics, especially, also particularly with the piping industry. There are simply too few verifiers that are familiar with scalable LCA EPD workflows. This is something that we mentioned earlier, but most established LCA tools are not designed for scalability, which led to a misinterpretation of verification scope costs and standards. These verifiers assumed they'd be verifying manually calculated individual EPDs. Of course, taking economies of scale out of the picture, this got pretty expensive pretty fast, and no one really likes that. Then we have a over-reliance on a single verifier, right? Which does create a lot of schedule and risk bottlenecks. But on top of that, there were a lot of regulatory and language differences even, which did complicate our verification timelines. Even within the EU, we do have our cultural differences. In this case, the solution that we found was to onboard them onto our software, get them familiar with it, because by doing so, we were able to approve and verify an entire spectrum of EPD types because they were familiar with it. We implemented bulk EPD verification to reduce costs and time, right? As soon as they were assured that we had a tool, all they had to do was pick samples and actually verify sample individual products in order to assume that all the other EPDs calculated are calculated in exactly the same manner. Then we aligned the verification scope early with all the stakeholders involved, as well as we built regional verification partnerships in order to overcome any language or cultural barriers, right? Just on a note, if you do have any questions regarding anything, we do have a Q&A form that you can submit these questions to at the same time, right? But on a final note, because of our at-scale solution, what we could do in a verification process was compress everything down to one background report. And that basically compressed the entire journey. And were we to actually verify a new product or product group afterwards, we can fast track it. which reduces costs by at least 60% of traditional individual EPD creation. And that's a massive gain. The second challenge we have is data collection. This is the quintessential and greatest obstacle faced by everyone in the LCA industry. Doesn't matter if you're a big company or small company, but in interest of the CPR and also of our companies who have gone through this, our largest European brick and tile manufacturer client needed to model more than 20 sites, and in effect, more than thousands of products. And the more data you need, the more challenging it becomes, right? And there was scattered, inconsistent, fragmented data across the different sites, different owners. No one necessarily knew where the information was. There was a lack of standardization. It was manually slow to onboard everyone. And there was no sense of clear ownership and responsibility, which led to a lot of double work, right? And in this case, there was poor visibility, which also led to that double work. Yeah. So the solution that we have is we centralized our data via group level coordination and standard templates, right? And this is something that we are able to do due to our software creating a digital twin. It automatically harmonizes and standardizes the way of working and enables centralized data collection where collaboration can take place in a much more fluent manner. We even got to the point where we effectively empowered our clients to have their own internal experts on the tool, which of course decreases the amount of external support they needed, right? And with the digital twin, we effectively create a single source of truth for our LCA and EPD data, which is beautiful, right? And the final part is we improved our project setup speed due to this structured data process, which is amazing. All the project managers out there are smiling right now because that's exactly what they need. On to the next. Yes. Our third bottleneck, of course, was multi-factory and product complexity. This is something particularly faced by coating manufacturers and building materials. It's not mentioned here, but also the piping industry. And the challenge too with this is the CPR compliance requires very granular data. They require per plant, per product data, which of course you can say is unrealistic, but they will enforce it on you anyways. And products, even the same product, can vary across different regions, right? Depending on the facility that they're produced in. They might even have different inputs, slightly different processes. They're not the same, even though they're sold under the same product name, right? This also increases our modeling complexity. Of course, that means diverse supply chains, compliance risk, and a lack of unified system, slowing down everything, right? So our solution indeed is building the digital twins for plant and product variations. Basically, by doing so, we do all the hard work for the digital twins in one go. You effectively model the entirety of your facility. Then we're able to actually cherry pick or choose products for EPD verification purposes whenever, right? So someone can come up to me and ask, hey, this is becoming our best seller. We need a EPD for this. When can we get it? Well, I'm sure you can get it much faster than starting anew without your single source of truth and your digital twin already being on standby. Great. Of course, sorry, just on that note too, because you create digital twins of all your different facilities, you do enable early detection of your product differences. This is something very unique to the EPD creation process, right? They have conditions. They say, if you want to group your products, you have to do it in this way. It's within this terms, inside this range, right? These numbers, you can already figure out once you have your digital twins created. It's a matter of exporting the results and then seeing if it meets their requirements, right? So we do streamline that process as well, enabling you to make better decision making. And of course, our final bottleneck, uncertainty is always bad for business. So we need to be ready for the future and to keep our competitive advantage. This is something particularly felt by our asphalt contractors, and infrastructure manufacturers. Their challenges is that they have different tenders that demand different PCR versions and formats, right? This can complicate a lot of different things. This also led to long project timelines and required repeated recalculations. And these standards are always changing as well. So how do we keep up with that at the same time? And ultimately, there was just inconsistent reporting limits, limiting our competitiveness, right? So in essence, the solution is by creating your digital twin, you create that internal environmental data repository, which is your single source of truth, right? And in our case, this means that it can be updated on an annual basis, and you can create kind of slightly different versions of each digital twin to align to each different PCR or requirement needed. And in effect, you have everything on standby for any EPD verification, market demands, right? From there on, of course, we can automate the tender report generation, and we standardize the reporting formats company-wide. And we leverage the data transparency for marketing and compliance. Again, if you have any questions in the meantime, please just put them in the Q&A form. As a final note, in response to these 4 most common bottleneck challenges, we've learned a lot of lessons as a company, right? We learned that we have to standardize. We need to. All data workflows need to be standardized early on with clear ownership. Otherwise, nothing gets done. We need to build centralized, scalable databases for environmental performance. And we need to leverage our environmental data beyond compliance and use it strategically, right? In achieving all of this, we do need to empower people. So we need to educate and align internal and external stakeholders in order to prevent any missteps. Very important. Most error actually comes from human error, right? We need to invest in digital readiness. So creating that digital twin, automating in order to ensure scalabilities, right? One thing maybe you guys aren't aware, a EPD verification process really is just talking to someone and telling them your justification and reasoning behind something, right? And usually they'll come back to you with feedback. They'll say, hey, please, I don't think this emissions factor is correct for this, yada, yada. So it's an iterative process. You have to go back and adjust your calculations, right? By having that digital twin, it's a matter of adjusting one small thing and knowing with certainty that that is applied across everywhere, which reduces a lot of stress as well. Of course, we also need to foster transparency. It really strengthens our credibility and tender success, right? People are familiar with your tool, your process. And as a final note, we need to plan proactively around regulatory evolution in order to stay competitive. And on that note, right, everything is always changing, but once you have that one digital twin on standby, you can always create a slightly different version to align with these dynamic changes all the time. And I'll hand it over to my colleague, Prateek.
Thank you so much, Alisa, for explaining in detail about the bottlenecks and what we have learned so far. And by now, you must have heard multiple times about our software can create digital twin. Our software can facilitate this. So now I'm here to explain you exactly how we do the stuff in our software. So Ecochain software can facilitate a modeling in both ways. One, product by product, and another way at scale, at a facility level. So what happens in product by product? So initially we talk to you, we discuss with you, okay, how your a production facility looks. For example, if you make in your production facility only 5 to 6 products, and you only want EPDs to be generated for those 5 products, we will assist you with a way in which we model your product by product. So how this goes is, it's a bottoms-up approach. So we will ask you about the bill of materials, then we ask about the processes that you do to get those products ready, and then we move to your factory level, understanding how it functions at the factory level. However, imagine you are a producer and producing 1,000+ products, like an example what Alisa mentioned. Doing it for 1,000 different products from bottoms up approach is really cumbersome. Additionally, you might not have the accurate process level data available for each of the products. So what we do, we facilitate the top-down approach, wherein we normally say we have a factory level data. So we request you, okay, what are your utility consumptions? What are your waste produced? How much products do you get in your system? So what are all your imports? What are all your exports? So most often, these information is already stored in your ERP systems. We collect all of that all of that information from your ERP systems at scale. Then we request you, okay, what all processes you conduct at your facility. Once we know about the processes, once we know about all your imports you do, the utility consumptions, the waste that you produce, everything, our software helps us to distribute it automatically as per the bill of material of individual product that you produce. And we call it a top-down approach. And that's how we facilitate thousands of LCA calculations in one go. So on your right, what you see is our top-down approach, where we go from factory level to the product level. And why this is efficient? Because this way you can actually create the digital twin of your factory locations or the manufacturing location. And then there are additional advantages of it. We have a provision in our software where we can give you various access, editor, admin, and just verification level, the review level. This facilitates additional layer of security, that your data is secured in the software. Moreover, this information can be easily copied and carry forward to year-wise requirements. So in our software, you get the facility that you go by year on year, which say this year I want to comply with this particular PCR, I bought this much of material. You can just copy paste that very easily in the next level. If you want to know more about the software, please get in touch. We will be happy to show you the demo and assist you with your requests. Can you go next? Next. That's how exactly it works. So we start and we collect all the data for you, what you have at the factory level. We create the digital twin of the factory using the Ecochain software. We generate the LCA results, and then we request you, okay, at which EPDPO you want to publish your EPDs, because each EPDPO has their own requirements, own formats, own API connections, their own data storage formats. That's why we have a completely customizable EPD generator available in our software. As per your request, we contact the program operators, and we already have established contacts with almost most of the program operators which are part of Eco platform. We pull in that particular EPD template as you request, and then what you have to do is simple click. Can you go next? You just have to do click, and what you have is unlimited pre-verified EPDs generated on just a single click. We also then facilitate the verification process, and this happens at scale. So you just need single background report for all of those EPDs, all the products that you produce at your factory locations. We will facilitate this with you, verification, and we also have a process in place inside the company where we help you, assist you to publish it on the program operator that you chose. This is a complete automated process wherein the interference is very minimum. Next. Click next. Yeah. So now, what is the final takeaway? As we see, we are reaching towards the end of the webinar. What is a final 5-step plan? So this is a common question we get when we talk to our customers. They say, okay, Pratik, now tell me, we are convinced, we know that we want to do it, but we want to start now. What shall we do? So we say, okay, map your portfolio first. First, assess which products fall under CPR scope and when do you start, where do you stand in that industry requirements of CPR? The best way or the shortcut to do it is check if your competitors are already publishing EPDs. That will certify that it is relevant and there is an opportunity. So that's the quickest way to see. Then define your EPD strategy. So understand if you want to start with a representative approach for a complete portfolio of your product, or you want to go with a product specific in detailed EPDs. And at Ecochain, we make this recommendation based on your product portfolio and how your product looks. Then we plan the timeline priorities. So you check that if your product needs to be CPR compliant by 2026, or it has to be somewhere in 2027, 2028. Then then the next 2 steps are pretty much standard across all the software, that we have to build the data discipline and the verification capacity, which we will assist you at. And then you just published, adopt EPD automation tools, and you win the game. That's the 5-step plan, what we propose to most of our customers. Next.
All right, we have reached the end. Oh, 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. We have reached the end of the webinar. I hope you found it interesting. This is really now the time for you to also ask your questions. We have left plenty of time to address any questions, any concerns that have not been addressed, because we also see a lot of companies have very specific challenges related to their organization or their market. So if we have not covered your questions or your comments yet, now is the time. Now is the time to let us know. We do have a couple of questions. I see one question, maybe for Alyssa, or no, let's say Pratik. Is there an option in the software to click and select EPD data from suppliers for parts of products? As we are working with the software right now, our consultant told us that this needs to be put in manually. Is there, or are there plans for links with more databases covering existing EPDs on the market?
Yes, that's
or Alyssa, maybe, or
yeah. You want me to answer this question? I can take that question. That's a really nice question. And it's very, we hear this question most often. As of now, we have not enabled that option to directly import the EPDs from the EPD PO. And I will tell you why that is the reason. Because in the past, we have realized that the EPDs which are published already on EPD POs, some of the EPDs are faulty, and the data which is represented on that EPD is not in line or accurate as per the methodology. So if we directly import those EPDs in the model, we might report erroneous results, and then it causes a problem in a verification. Alternatively, how we facilitate that is we request customers to provide the list of EPDs. We download them. We check if they are okay, if the methodology followed there is correct. Are those EPD have the quality standards required by that particular program operator? They met everything? And then we have an EPD importer tool. We import it in the account of the user. So, and there was a thought behind this to enable this way of working, rather than just providing a direct approach of importing EPDs right from the program operators.
All right, thanks, Pratik. I hope this answers the question. We have one more from Andrew: how to align with CPR obligations for product compliance and DOC/DOP. Maybe another one for Pratik.
Yes, thank you for this question. Actually, it's not a short answer which we can cover in this webinar. But for some product groups, EPDs can serve as a DOPC document only for some product groups. But I'm happy to have a discussion with you in detail if you reach out to us, because this time frame is too short to explain that in detail, unfortunately. Sorry.
We'll be happy to get in touch. Also, if you'd like to continue the conversation, if you just scan the QR code here, you'll be able to book a meeting directly with our team. If not, we're also happy to reach out to you after the webinar regardless. Another question. Thanks for your presentation. Do you know if the CEN is keeping a live program of CPR quiz works per product family with anticipated standardization dates?
Yes, they do.
Pratik, I see you.
Yes.
Nod.
Yeah, yes, they are. Yeah, yes, they are doing it. Yes.
Great. Yes. Again, if you have more questions about this, we're happy to have a call to go over the details with you. Another question: do the FEICA documents cover the CPR standards? The FICA documents, do they cover the CPR standards? I think the answer is yes. Okay, great. Another question: if we'll be sharing the slides, we'll be sharing the recording with you, which also, of course, includes the slides. If you'd like more, maybe a deep dive on any specific topic, again, happy to have a one-on-one session with you. Let's see. Question: how many people/FTE do you need for one-site implementation through the Ecochain software? Maybe Alyssa, you want to answer this one?
Yes. That excuses.
Yeah.
Perfect. That very much depends on capacity and realistically what deadline you have in mind. You can do anything with one person, actually. Actually, no, that's not true. You can do a lot with one person, but usually you'll be facing a lot of pressure in terms of timing. We do think that it's best to have one owner per site, right? But they are basically the ones who can navigate as well as update values of your digital twin for the next year in order to have it on standby for any EPD creation needs, right? But also in terms of long-term sustainability, we also recommend that they have someone that they closely work with in the case that they have to leave the company or they leave the company at a certain point. So the knowledge is handed over in a safe manner.
Great. Follow-up question to that one. After implementing a digital twin once, how much effort does it take to update it?
Honestly, after once, that's when you already know what data is connected to which department, which person, and you can start building a data pipeline or infrastructure. So it doesn't actually take much more effort. I can even argue that probably a week's work, if not less, per site.
So one more question relating to the previous question about the CEN, keeping a program. Do we have any public link to such program that we can share?
We can share it afterwards, but I believe we need to go directly onto the site and find a working group working on this. And then they usually have public announcements on their agenda as well as their upcoming timeline and what they plan to accomplish. So we will send it afterwards, but in the meantime, you can also try to look for it yourself on the Send side. Look for the task group 304, I believe. That's our construction products. And then if you look further down, you'll find the subtask groups that are working on CPRs. Oh, sorry, PCRs.
Great. Maybe Pratik, just a question for you. If you could summarize, like how is Ecochain uniquely positioned in order to address the bottlenecks that we've presented, and what does let's say the ideal customer look like?
Yes, thank you so much for this question, because someone by mistakenly sent me a message just to me in the chat asking why we should go with Ecochain and why not the competitors. I'll answer both the questions now. So what you see is that we are very experienced with what we do in terms of publishing EPDs at scale, EPDs for even small portfolios of the product or individual product. We have enormous amount of experience now with us because we have dedicated consultants working in, day out on this process. So we know how to tackle all of these bottlenecks. And while explaining the verification, I see in the poll, actually, people were mentioning it's not that important. Maybe because they've not yet experienced the pain what it is to get your EPDs or LCAs verified. And then I want to stress that what uniqueness what we have is the differentiator is verification at scale. So imagine you produce 100 or 200 products, and then you go to a program operator or a verifier and say, okay, I need to verify all of these products. Then the amount of time it takes is enormous. And we have customers now with us who have chosen us, and they were with our competitors in the past. Now they were working with us just because we could facilitate that at ease. We have this connections, we know how it works at verification at scale, and that's one of the biggest advantages. And we also help building the data pipelines and stuff like that. So I think these are the more things what makes us different and unique.
Yes, yeah, I think the magic word there is scale, right? So especially if you're looking back a couple of years ago, the demand for EPDs compared to today, compared to years from now, it's really, really growing exponentially. So skill is of the utmost importance. I think also we have been around since 2011, which for a LCA software company is very, it's very long. So we've over time really built a trusted customer base, especially growing out of the Netherlands, which was one of the front runners really on LCA and the requirements for LCA data from companies in the construction sector. And this is how we've really built our expertise, expanding across Europe now as well.
I actually got one more question in the chat. Alisa, I think that is for you. I think there was some miscommunication with question and answers in the chat. So I got one more question. They're asking, while explaining the bottleneck, you explained about building the data pipeline and dedicated data centers. Does that mean you work with a company or an internal stakeholder, or it is you work alone at Ecochain?
Will always be a collaborative thing. Sometimes I will hop on and help out my clients in terms of navigating their ERP and SAP system, simply because there is a format the data needs to be in order to enter into the Ecochain software. That's where I come in. The question becomes, how can we make this easier, right? We also have APIs for that. But in the case that our clients do not yet want to connect via APIs, there is a way that we can hop in and help with facilitating this in order to make it a streamlined process you can repeat over and over again to the point where no one actually needs to know what's going on in the backend, which is also quite a smooth process. Yeah. So in short, yes, we do work with the companies themselves.
Okay, so I have one more question coming
Great.
in multi-factory and a multi-location company product complexity. Most often the difference is in the supply chain and the transport. If I model my transport location, if my origin of location is the same, but the delivery location is different, can I model different transport options for the different locations?
Yes, definitely.
Great. Oh, 1 second.
Sorry, I also.
I think that were all the questions for now. If there are no further questions, I'm fine with wrapping it up for now. There's the option here again to book a demo. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I see some people have requested just for a little bit more information, which we're happy to provide and keep you updated about any further events, further initiatives that we'll be organizing. And I think to wrap up, I'd just like to thank everyone for joining, for your attention, and of course for our speakers, Dr. Pratik and Alisa, for your presentations. I wish you all a very, very nice day, and hope to see you at one of our next events. We'll keep you posted. Thanks everybody.
Thank you. Bye, guys.